I'm Eddie with Range Real Estate. Today we're in Waco, Texas, and we are at the Homestead Heritage Market. Behind us, we're going to be meeting my buddy Joe. He is the owner and operator of Vintage Copperwork, so we're going to take a behind-the-scenes look at some of his work. This is my friend Joe Quinones. He is the owner of Vintage Copperworks here in Waco, Texas. Joe, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you inviting us out to the shop today, and we're excited to look at your work. Tell me the story of how did Vintage Copperworks, how did that happen? What was your inspiration behind the business?
Well, it started when I was about 18 years old, and I started making crafts. We had a family business, and I made literally about 50,000 of these little tiny sheep.
Really?
Out of sheepskin and wood. That was like my first craft endeavor as a teenager, and it just grew from there. Over the years, I branched out into furniture and lighting, and my favorite thing is to do lighting. But as I got older here in the last 10 years, I switched to almost doing exclusively copper and copper accessories, but my favorite still is lighting. Okay. I love to make lights.
So we've seen your work, so a lot of this copper work and specifically lighting on a few episodes of the Restoration Road TV show with Clint Harp. Yep. Can you show us some individual pieces and maybe talk us through? I know these lights are similar to the one that we saw featured on the show.
They are.
Can you talk to me a little bit about those?
The copper is copper, and those train lights were antiques, and I had to recreate some of the parts that were missing and turn them into fully functional. Well, of course, lit with electricity instead of gas, but. Mostly what I do is, with copper work, is spinning. So copper can be hand hammered, it can be shaped in so many different ways, but the round pendants that I'm making here are spun. Okay. And that goes back to my skill as a wood turner I started when I was about 17 years old, wood turning wooden bases for lighting. And with that skill, when I picked up copper work, it kind of married into that same skill set where I can use wood to make a form and then wrap copper around it and make pendant lights. And then I can repeat that process and make multiples of the same shape. This is called repose, which means raising or chasing. Okay. And that star is raised from the background. And that is just one example.
So you're building this. You're building the light fixture first, and then doing this.
And then doing the raising from the back. Yes, very cool. After the fact. Same thing with this logo, like Cafe Homestead. This was done from the backside, but hammered in reverse from the back. And as well as this is also another hand hammered wall sconce that I did. This was actually a prototype for the cafe. Which is just right up the road here.
Yeah, if you go to the Homestead Cafe, which we're just beyond that, towards the end of Homestead Heritage, the property, on the outside of the building, you see a lot of his handiwork, for the light fixtures, but to these sconces, which are all really individual. And I understand that you're going to be making these to order in the future. Is that true?
All my work is custom work. 90% of it is.
So you're going to make it where somebody can send you a design for one of these, and you can build it and get it off to them.
Yes. Speaking of the cafe, this is an exact representation of one of the cafe lights, and except in a smaller scale. This is 2 horses, plowing horses. It's hammered copper and then hand punched.
So how many punches? So you're doing this by hand. How is there a number of these punches?
Well, you know what? I counted on a couple of them. The larger, this is small. This is only 18 inches tall. The ones at the cafe are 40 inches tall. And I counted on one of them, and there's about 2,000 holes that I had to hand punch. Some of them had twice that.
How many times did you have to count that?
I only counted once. I didn't want to have to do that again.
You're lucky I wasn't there. I would have been like 19, 37.
Right. But I had to punch them, and then I went back with the drill and drilled a perfect hole into each punch to make sure that the light shone through. Okay. And so, yes, it was.
So you're individually with a drill drilling out 2,000 little individual hole punches.
Exactly.
So it sounds like. So how many hours do you think it takes you to make that right there?
That small version took about a day, a full day.
Okay.
If I was doing multiples, it maybe take a little bit less time. Being one at a time, it takes a little longer to make something like that.
Well, and that's one of the things that we find that gets people excited the most is, it's one thing to have a beautiful item or a beautiful home or something like that, but it's a whole other thing when you have a beautiful item that has a story. It
Yes.
makes it a lot more meaningful when we could say, okay, this came from this place. This was here. And so when you're taking a piece of furniture, you're taking a sconce or a light fixture or anything that's made from some type of repurposed product, you're taking a piece of a story into your house. And it's just something that's really cool. It's a good talking point.
Yeah.
And it's just something, there's something special about being able to take something that could have potentially been thrown away and then now making something into it that somebody is willing to put in their home.
Yes.
So very, very cool. Well, Joe, thank you for taking the time to talk to us and giving
My
us
pleasure.
a tour of your shop. Where can we find you? Where can folks find you if they
Well,
want
every
to
Saturday here,
raise some interest?
from now through October,
Okay.
we have this weekly market, and I'm here displaying all my wares and doing custom orders. You can find me on Instagram, Vintage Copperworks, and
we'll put a link to that in the
Awesome.
video, perhaps.
That's
and
great.
To make it a little easier for folks to find you. Well, thanks for having us out. I look forward to the
Absolutely.
behind the scenes
Come visit
look
my
at your shop.
Yes,
And
yes.
we'll talk soon.
Okay.
Take care.